Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of Raging Loop on Nintendo Switch. Sako Mamiya appeared out of nowhere and swung her bag at us, but we managed to jump back just in time.
マミヤさん、そういえば昼前にいきなり引き上げてたけど、今までどこに？
芹沢さん？それにこちらは？
あ、すみません。現地の情報提供者です。
あなたがか。どういうことよこれ。軽く命の危機なんだけど。
一体何なのこれ？春秋さん。
ああ、まあ説明すると長いんだけど、
3行でまとめて。
さっきの場に部外者はまずかったので、身車家の怪奇スキャンダルを垂れ込んで上藤吉側に行ってもらいました。
やっぱ春秋さんの仕業だ。みんな春秋さんの仕業だ。
Actually, I had Mitsuji do some work, but I couldn't fit that into the summary.
それどころじゃないわよ。なんなのあの棒切れ持った仮想集団は。こんなのリアルすぎすぎらでしょ。
え、そんなわかりやすいピンチに陥ってるんですか？
春秋さん後ろ。
新内様、万歳。
Seriously? A wolf actor jumped out of the mist, clad in nothing but a patchwork of wolf costume. To me, as I was now, it actually looked comical, but the power of the weapon in his hand was no joke. He was about to hurt me bad. Suddenly, he was blown away. I heard him groan as he disappeared into the mist again and didn't get up for round two.
大丈夫かい？
あ、はい。
ありがとうございます。ただあなた、これはどういうこと？
春秋さん、3行で説明を。
Yasumizuで殺人儀式を行おうとしてた連中が、その道すがらを外の汽車に激写されて、半ばパニクりながら襲ってきたんです。
何言ってるのか一言たりとも理解できないんだけど。後でシュール缶を頭からぶっかけてでも説明してもらうから。
それは嫌だ。いいじゃないですか。元オカルトライターの面目役所でしょ。
なんでそんな細かいことまで知ってるのよ。
キューちゃん、ちょっと落ち着いて。
なんですか橋本さん。この際言いますけど、橋本さんちょっと余裕ぶっこきすぎです。怪奇なめたらいつか死にますよ。
ああ、それは確かだな。
まあまあ、僕のことはいいんだけど、怪奇云々の前にまず物質的な脅威に対処しないとまずそうだな。
Right, as he finishes those words, several wolf actors jumped out of the trees, making weird screams.
こうなったら
棒切れ相手に銃はまずい。
じゃあどうしろって？
くらえ！
A stick flew by her, messing up her hair.
うわー！肉の壁！
As Chaimi dodged, Hashimoto-san moved into everyone's blind spot and blasted away two of the enemies.
ひるむな！デブ以外は女ともやしだ！
ひどい。
うおー！くたばれー！
Probably out of a sense of chivalry, they first went for the scrawny guy. That pissed me off. And hey, it was 2 against 1. Oh no, they beat me.
でや
おい！
おりゃー！
よー！
Hashimoto-san tackled one, while Chaimi-san landed a jump kick on the other, saving me. Hit in the jaw, the wolf was knocked down in one hit. The mask fell off, and hey, he looked even scrawnier than me. What the hell?
わあ、私結構やれる？
いい筋してるね、お嬢さん。
Yeah, she had great legs.
大丈夫か重作。こうなったら一人でもぶっ殺してやら
Mami-san was actually doing good work just swinging her shoulder bag around.
ほらー、知ってたかしら？フレイルはね、農具が原型で女子供でも兵士ぶっ殺せる有能な武器なの。
Whoa, the Pharaoh's advantage was that you didn't need that much power to hurt with them. And this gourmet rider was so strong it didn't matter. Was the bag full of rocks or something? All the hits, all the ones hit in the head were knocked senseless.
くそやれやっちまえ。
くそ、まだ来るの？
キリがないね。
まずいです。相手が増える一方だ。
こうなりゃやってやるわ。っていうか、春秋さんも戦ってよ。だりゃ
I hadn't expected Mission 3 to be an all-out battle with this group. It didn't last longer than 10 minutes. Everyone on their side was scrawny, while everyone on my side, myself excluded, were berserkers. Because of that, the dozen or so wolf actors that fought us ended up knocked out on the ground around us. Though I knew this wasn't over.
どうやらあちらさんが話があるみたいだよ。
The problem had a mythical solution. Mission 3, dealing with the Miguruma, the leaders of the feast. It would be easy if it could all be taken care of by just beating these scrawny guys. But I had to defeat a false god that had controlled this place for centuries using weird myths and superstitions. Otherwise, I would be unable to completely free Yasumizu, this village, from the confines of the mist. There were three. They were positioned and presented in a completely different way than the ones who clearly did the dirty work. Their apparel was fancier too. They were the great Lord Shinai, Yumotsuku Okami, that had appeared before the Hanging Pine. They were unarmed, signaling that they didn't want to fight right now.
貴様らは何者だ。
Loyal to the role, he asked that.
どうやら妙に事情に詳しい者がおるようだが。
They'd seen it with the eye of Miguruma, huh?
当然生きて帰れるとは思うまいな。
こっちのセリフよ、偽物。
Her eyes didn't show a hint of hesitation, and her words didn't show a bit of fear. God was dead. She'd killed it. Thus, she had no reason to fear, obey, or tolerate a fake. One more step.
一体何なんです？返答次第では警察を呼びますよ。
ああ、すみません。ややこしくなるので、ここは僕が。
あなたも超怪しいんだってば。
彼に任せよう、キューちゃん。
橋本さん。
まあ、妙なことをすれば潰すから。
本当、あなたにはかなわないな。さて、身車家の者に古き山の神からの言づてを授ける。
They were shaken.
この言葉の意味がわかるなら、貴様らも身車の位高き者なのだろう。聞け。かの神はよみがえった。狼は死に、影たる狼も死んだ。他の紳士ももはや去るのみ。狼は去り際のたまった。もはや読み意味の宴は開くべからずと。よって貴様らにもう聖域を犯す理由はない。帰って皆に知らせよ。もはやこの山に神内明神はおらぬと。長者家は間もなく廃れよう。それまで身を正し 待つがよいと。
To my mind, it was possible that they would back out. After all, God was killed and replaced. That was the hard truth. The people of Yasumizu had changed their values and outlook on life. Thus, the group that had gained power through God would know this truth and thus lose their power. However,
何時たぞ
the false god asked that. It was an old language. It was a simple question. Who are you? Among the many wolf actors here, the youths lying around us, and the three in front of us, two of which had backed away in a panic, the elder in the middle stood out. His eyes were looking ahead. Beyond that mask, I could see unwavering black eyes and unshaken vigor. This wasn't the strength of a god. It was just the strength of a human. He used it to face me head on. He used it to ask me whether I had what it took to end this mad conspiracy. That was the challenge of the very last boss.
春秋さん、どうするの？
I'd lose if I said something bad. I'd lose if I showed any sort of hesitation. I'd lose if I stayed quiet for too long. I felt as if the mask was laughing at me.
神ならずうにもあらずばたそかれうべしいかでか神とがむべき
You are no god or divine child. You are no one, so why can you stand against God? That was a provocation. I knew this well. That's why I brought this over. I took it out again. The old wolf mask. The old man laughed.
神錆びて神なきにせるかぐ土の長む大和になる神もなし
あいつ、さっきから何言ってるの？
百人一首かな。
神錆びて神なきにせるかぐ土。神のように振る舞って神を殺したかぐ土。日のかぐ土は確かに神殺しの神。だけど別に意図して殺したわけじゃないわ。燃え盛る体が生まれ落ちる時に母たるイザナミを殺した。直接歌ってるのはかぐ土じゃない。かぐ土。家具の土。愚かで醜いもの。神様ぶって神を殺した誰かのことを罵り非難する掛け言葉だわ。大和は大和、なる神、つまり雷は神なりの掛け言葉。山を眺めても神の力の啓示はなく、大和の国にお前がなれる神はない。そういうことかしら。
We'd already killed this god. After claiming that, saying we would take his place would be just wrong and self-contradictory. That was why the old man laughed. He knew he'd come back up because of something like this. Well, that was the right idea, considering the Shinai faith theology.
まあ、割とそれは日本神話っぽいわよね。死んだ神はこっちの国にはいないから。
Exactly.
どういうこと？間宮さん。
Indeed, this was the right time.
聖者と死者の領域が国で区切られてる。ほら、イザナギだってそうだったじゃない？
Indeed, this was the right place.
人も神も死ねば黄泉の国に行くのよ。
This god existed. I had to thank Mamiya-san for the explanation later. I put on the mask.
愚か
うるさいな。言ってやるからしかと聞け。
It was a bit pathetic, but I would borrow your power again.
我の名前はよもつ狼。
汝申せしは狼今はここにあらずさればこそ我狼にあらず汝狼ならば我もまた狼なり 牛吉の地を治めたる老面の神なり。
いや違う。ここは不吉じゃない。黄泉だ。
Sadanaga's mists were all around us.
ここに僕とあなたがいるからには、あなたも僕も死んだことに相違ない。
さらば次なる夕霧の日来たらば我らすなわち落ち戻らんや。
Then the god would resurrect whenever the mists come. What an appropriate thing to worry about. The solution was simple, though.
稲だ。なぜなら今日を最後にこの山峡に黄泉の霧の立つことはない。
いかなれや。
So, he wasn't satisfied with the direct answer to his argument, huh?
ならば語ろう。僕とあなたの最後の物語を。あなた方の物語の続きを語ろう。
After all, storytelling was my specialty. After the feast of the Yomi Purge, the wolves left the village. However, then came the Sadanaga mists, and the wolves rose up from the Yomi to kill people. The people were scared and killed more and more people they thought to be the wolves' allies. The feast of the Yomi Purge had become a fearsome massacre. But then it was found out that the wolves hadn't actually died. They had just fallen off the cliff, weakened, caught by someone, and locked up in a dark prison. That someone was the snake. Shinai-san had turned out to be the wolves. The snake was using the feast to create an uprising against the wolves. To the wolves, the snake said that the ones who went against God's will were humans and continued to tell the people that the wolves were bad. The snake would then wear Shinai's clothes, appear before people, and control them completely, using frightening words. However, the wolves weren't tricked after all. The badger, who'd come to the feast late, came to their prison and told the wolves the truth. With the badger's help, the wolves escaped the prison and returned to the village. Regrettably, a lot of blood had already been spilled in the name of the Okami. The wolves were sad that their names would from now on invoke fear and hate among the people. Thus, the wolves chose to set things straight. First, they went to the dream of a human girl who was born with the blessing of the snake, only to be marked by the wolves and chased out of her home. They told her to use powerful smoke and fire to burn all the guardians. She believed their words and, after lots of trouble, she obtained the powerful smoke and fire from a faraway land. Then she returned back home and used it to burn down the snake and its fellow guardians. With them at last punished, the wolves took everyone on a journey far away. With that, Ujina, the badger and the old god who was once the wolf's servant, had now taken its place as the new eternal god of the mountain. One of the guardians, the crow, was allowed to stay and be watcher of Yomi to prevent any sign of rising again. With that, Shinai-san was gone, leaving only humans, the crow, and the new god, bringing forth a new age of peace. The new god occasionally brings the mist as a reminder of the wolves. It's a good mist that protects people's dreams, takes away diseases, prevents fires, and promises prosperity, so the people began to love it when they came. However, misty nights were when the gods walked the earth, so the people cleansed, sheltered, and dreamt to not get in their way. Upon seeing that, the new god said,
良きかな。
and they lived happily ever after. As I finished talking, I could hear God giggle with bizarre sort of amazement. Well, that was probably good enough. By the way, I'd chosen to say nothing about my daughter. I'd leave that part out of the plot to the daughter herself.
だから蛇のおのおの方、僕もあなた方もここから去るべき時です。黄泉の国を経由して遠いところへ。
With that conclusion, I took off the mask.
迎え火の卓や煙の切り立ちて雲となるらん震え口縄。
どうなったの？
さあ、今の歌はちょっと難しいけど、口縄は蛇のことだっけ？
They were whispering to each other for a minute or two. Eventually, the masked old man began moving again, looked up, and spent a few seconds. After a brief but intense moment of prayer, he opened his mouth.
愛わかった。
The two seemed perplexed.
だから言うたじゃろうが、こんなものろくでもないと。当主に逆らんのが身車の習いとはいえ、いい加減腹に据えかねたところじゃ。いや、バカせがれに墓の中のバカ親父は因果応報というものを知るがよしじゃ。若造、慣れん芝居をさせたが、もう帰ってええぞ。こっちはこっちで片付けておこう。
その。
I wasn't sure how to respond.
報道しますよ。
保健所が来たらえらいことになるわ。
まあ、そうなればこの村は消えてなくなるかもしれんの。そうなった時、蓄えがないものはどうなるのか、路頭に迷わねばいいが。
こんな時まで安水の足元を見る？
ちえみちゃん、そういうわけじゃない。藤吉村の人たちにはそれでも藤吉村という場所が必要なんだ。
ちょっと待って、じゃあこのこと報道するなっていうの？
まあ、そうですね。
待ってよ、やめてよ、こんな大スクープっぽいネタを黙れなんて。
なんだかよくわからないけど、じゃあこうしたらどうかな。あの人たち、身車さんたちがいろいろ悪いことをしているなら、それが正されるかどうか待って、どうにもならなかったらしっかり調べて立ち入ろうか。
橋本さん、いつものプロ根性は？
どうもきな臭いからね。命の危険がある話には慎重になるのがプロってもんだよ。
そう警戒せずとも、まあ見ておれ。数日のうちに新聞にでも出るじゃろう。どこかの田舎村で妙な事件が起きたとな。ほれ、何を腰を抜かしておる。そこらに転がっとるもんを起こせ。撤収じゃ撤収。
He turned around and threw away his mask. I couldn't see his face, but his long gray hair, large neck, and defined jawline told me he was really vigorous for his age. The fancy mask he dropped made a clattering sound on the wood and gravel. God once again returned to the earth. As if he felt nothing about it, the old man didn't even turn around as he shouted at the wolf actors and left.
おじい様。
I looked at Chamey.
身車に孫娘などおらぬ。さあさあ、引け。
We watched as the wolves left without showing a hint of divinity.
おじいさんって？
現当主はまだ身車ちえみの実父のはずだから。わかんないよ。先代はよそで暮らしてるって会ったことなかったし。
そういえば戦時中にあった宴からしばらく40年くらい宴がない時期があったって聞いたな。霧が出なかったんじゃなくて、もしかしたら。
やめよ。身車にいい人がいたかもなんて今は別に知りたくない。
わかった。
それより今は 事情を聞く気満々の間宮さんをどうするか考えた方が。
あ、宝生久子さん、実は僕あなたの記事のファンなんです。アップルページ1月号の雑煮特集見ました。
嘘、初めて自分の記事の読者見つけたってごまかされるか。
まあじゃあお二人の車まで道すがら話しますよ。多分もう危険はないですが、行きづらいでしょ。
確かにちょっと怖いね。
こっちには違法改造ショットガンナーがいますからご安心を。
やめてよ。
つくづくいい性格の人のようね。いいわ、とことん付き合おうじゃない。
And so, this misty night passed without any werewolves appearing. Not everyone made it out unharmed, but it seemed like a good ending to me. All missions clear. Now, I just had to return. I briefly told Mamiya-san about the feast and that they helped prevent it. Well, she did wonder how I knew about it. I considered telling her about the looping, mostly because it seemed interesting, but I was too tired to talk for that long. That was where I ended the interview. She made me exchange phone numbers, eager to interview me someday. We then met up with everyone in the hall, and we all went down to Saranaga. I looked around for Maiko, but I couldn't find her anywhere, though I noticed that my backpack was completely out of food. Some writing stuff was gone too, and there was some clumsy letters on the waterproof bag. Thank you, Fuyaki-san. And that was it. I didn't get it, but I can only guess she was satisfied with something and just left. I was kind of worried, though. But I had no doubts that she would grow up strong, and that no one would ever catch her again. Going down Saranaga on river boats was pretty easy. The fantastical mist surrounding us was very beautiful, enchanting, and I could totally understand why the people of the past thought this was Yomi. Eventually, the mist ended, and so did the forest. Rikako-san was watching as the mist grew more distant. She was silently crying. Yeah. I might have taken her side if everyone in Yasumizu were irredeemable scumbags. The moment I thought that, Chamie and Haru-chan pinched my ass like they just read my mind. Haru-chan supposedly could read minds, but she actually sussed it out herself this time. It'd be hard for anyone who's not Mochi to handle being her boyfriend. As we arrived at a crossroads and got out, I saw Mitsuji waiting for us with 3 4-wheelers nearby.
超遅えよ。
ごめん、もう夢は終わったんだよね。君の羊も戻ったの？
ああ、問題ない。
よかった。心配した？
したよ。何人かボートごと転身するしよ。
申し訳ない。その狼様。
ああ、この人ただの羊なんで気にしないでください。
てめえ何言ってやがる。つうかいいのかよ。神だとかいう話だったろ。
このメンバーにはバラして OK。
ああそうかよ。道理でてめえがそうやって住人の前でバカみてえに仮面抱えてると思ったぜ。
と忘れるところだった。野里さん、これ僕は演技に使いましたが、安水の祠から出土した人柱の遺物です。
なんと。
中には骨もありました。きちんと整理して埋葬だか展示だか、とにかくお任せします。
承った。まあ私に考古学だのなんだのの才覚はないのだが、
多分そのうち適切な人材が現れますよ。と、そういえば他の人は？
もう勝原のホテルに着いた。そっからしばらく熱海行きのバスツアーにぶっ込むからな。まあとは任せろ。
マジでどういう組織なんだ君んとこは。
正義の味方。
すげえ元カノ持ってたんだな僕は。
元カノ言うなバカ。
は？ここまでして殺されんの？僕。
What'd you say before? Don't say that, you dumbass. Anyway, you'll hear from us again, so better brace yourself. Huh? Haven't died enough.
言い方が悪かった。ま、大ごとにはしねえようにするから安心しろ。
じゃあ着去は解除しとく。
着去かよ。つくづくひでえとしか言いようがねえやつだよお前はよ。
僕はまともだ。狂ってるのは世界だ。
ああ、悪い。乗ってくれ。
いや、お二人って。
ああ、三峰三辻。最近破局した噂の元カノで正義の味方をやってるらしく、ここで偶然再会した。
なんつう紹介してんだてめ
え。三辻、芹沢千恵美さん。誰かさんの陰謀でループ地獄にはまった中で一瞬付き合って別れた噂の元カノでエア殺人鬼。
噂じゃない。っていうかやめてよ。あの壮絶な思い出の数々をそんな感じで簡略化すんのは。
まあその辺のあれは俺のせいもあるし、何も言わねえにしても相変わらず最低だなお前。
僕をけなしとけばいいって風潮は間違ってると思う。
いいからもう寝たい。
お風呂もできれば入りたい。
うざいし、春秋様を殺したい。
なんだよこの面白ご一行様は。
いやもう全く。もう
あんたが保護者か。まあ乗ってくれ。春秋、あんたは？バイクあったけど乗ってくか？
いや、いいや。ここで別れる。
そうか、分かった。
バカ。私は嫌いじゃないよ。えげつない春秋のこと。私らのことは気にせずに素直になれば？
Nope.
たまには社に詣に来ませい。町のお方。
春ちゃんはこっち向いて。ハッサンとやらはとっとと帰るといい。来るときは面白土産をな。
またいずれ。
ええ。他のみんなにもよろしくじゃないか。僕はもう死んだことになってるし。じゃ、いいや。おやすみ。さよなら。
I said that, and turned around. That was the last thing I heard from them. Then I heard them no longer. Been a while, my beloved bike. Though I'd hop on it later. A power drive, some stream walking, cliff climbing, excavating, acting, fighting, negotiating. No day had been as exhausting as this one. I finally remembered that my hand was injured, but the fatigue numbed the pain. I'd just sleep. I really wanted some sleep. (5:13) Tuesday. I woke up surrounded by mist. I woke up next to a pile of corpses.
なんてね。寝すぎだよ、春秋さん。さあさあ早く遠くへ連れてってよ。
That kind of stuff wouldn't happen again. Nothing strange would happen in reality.
人狼なんているわけないじゃないか。
I whispered to no one. Then I gathered my stuff and left. The place where the convenience store was supposed to be was empty. It was all just forest. Of course, that was all just a dream. I didn't get lost anymore, but I felt like I'd soon forget this road. That was what dreams were like. Haruchan's whole thing was just a juvenile delusion. Mitsuji's organization was just a public peacekeeping agency. God was purely psychological. There, all of that had to be products of reality. The endless Saranaga, the rotting Yomibito, the few monsters asserting someone's love, it was all a dream. That's how I chosen to look at it. And so I returned to my normal everyday life. One day. A while after that,
県郡富士吉村で村長が汚職で隕石辞任。橿原地方のペット業者が破産で大量の犬を処分。これだけか？新聞見ろって割におとなしいな。
after the incident, I gathered local newspapers and mimicked the previous Nosato family heads. Yet these were the only relevant reports I found. Though it wasn't nothing, it would be rash to underestimate this. A village mayor, probably a Miguruma or someone related, resigning was something that simply couldn't have happened there before. Even if it had, it would be something that went unnoticed. The people would simply decide it through secret power struggles. This could only mean that there was something a lot worse than just corruption, and this made it out to the public because they simply couldn't hide it all. The same went for the pet shop. If the Miguruma had really used rabies for the corruption, it would be national news. After all, it was basically a form of bioterrorism. Hell, with all the rabid dogs they had, the disease must have spread to other mammals, like rats, according to what I looked up. If these rabid animals spread all over, Japan would no longer be considered rabies-free, and that would cost the country a lot. Otherwise, those was just the unhygienic dogs trained in a weird way. Or maybe the elitists hid it to prevent panic and loss of resources. Well, there was Mitsuji's shop too. I hadn't heard from them yet, and I got nothing when I tried to call her myself, even though I sang the Buddha's Ash Rock. Well, whether the government or a secret organization, I hoped her group did whatever they had to in the background. Apparently, the situation in Fujiyoshi was stable. There was a mayoral election, and the Nosato head ended up taking the post. The reason why they skipped Higuchi was probably too complicated to release for the public. I was informed of this through an email left by Kiniyosuke Nasatoshi. He was outside the village right now, along with Rikako Uemitsu-san. He rationalized this with his family by saying that he would seclude himself with her and keep the danger that was the Uemitsu family away. Bold. He could easily contact his brother, currently head and mayor, and get info from him, and I could probably learn more if I contacted them. But this was their problem now. If I went any deeper, I'd just be a rubbernecker. I did find out that life in Yasumizu carried on as always, which was good enough for me. Oh man. Did the fact that I'd been trying to copy the previous Nosatos mean that I still hadn't recognized the whole event as a dream? Or maybe I had some lingering feelings. I could still see her at the edge of my vision. Was it that hard for me to end it? Weird. My flashback was extremely vivid and still failed to leave me.
やあ、自称春明さん。
いや、
I almost screamed. Almost.
大学院生らしからぬ、いい家だね。
おかげさまで。
あ、これ、お土産です。
あ、ご丁寧にどうも。生小まんじゅう。どこの名物なんだこれ。超興奮してきた。千恵美先生はどこから入ったのかな。
さっきいっぱい人が出てきたからオートロックはそれで抜けて、玄関はなんか開いてたよ。
They always come in droves, so I just left the door open.
知り合い？
編集者。
実はさっきから気になってるんだけど、この真新しい本の山。
検本だね。
え、作家さん？
一応。
これテレビで見たことある。あ、こっちは学生教で。全部作家の名義違うじゃん。
本名はどれかな。
どうせ全部偽名でしょ。っていうか久石春明って。久石陽明、 在証明、不在証明、アリバイのことじゃない。はい、ふざけてましたね。
ふざけたわけじゃない。あれは仕事をサボる時用のペンネームなだけだ。
根底がふざけている。っていうか何それ、人気小説家？人生の勝利者じゃん。庶民なめんな。
一応締め切りと編集者と文才の枯渇に怯えながら細々と暮らしているんですが。
本名は？
She chased me around my office and study for around a minute. Then,
まあいいですわ。
そうだ。一体なんでここに。
みっちゃんに住所を聞いて。
みっちゃん？
みつじさん。
なんで仲良くなってんですか？
あいつだけはやめとけっていっぱい言われた。
いよいよなんで来たの？
あれから5社ほど落ちまして。
おお、それは気の毒な。
大学は軽く夏休みだったりもしまして。
もうそんな季節か。
ちょっと気分転換が必要だな。そういえば二血してくれるっていうナンパな兄ちゃんがいたなって。
ああ、夢の中で。
ちえみは夢の中とは思ってないけど。
いいのかな。目の前にいるのはループの中で3人の女子に手を出したリアル狼だけど。
あら大変。じゃあそばにいなきゃ。また殺せるように。
言うじゃないか。
どう？いろいろあった甲斐あってちょっとはいい女になった？
趣味は悪いと思う。
お互い様でしょ。
denying that would have pissed me off, so I said nothing.
一本取った？
じゃあ先に10本取った側の言うことを何でも聞くって賭けをしようか。
やったー。
何を？
ちえみちゃんは自称春明さんのルールを破りに来たんだから。ここから先は一歩もあげない。一緒になったら2人でどこまでも狂っちゃうって言ってたっけ？だったらちえみは春明さんの敵でいいや。優秀な対戦相手、あるいはお邪魔虫としてずっとひっついていくよね、神様。
いい度胸だ、人間。
She always smiled, stuck out her tongue, and ran off ahead of me. A cheerful, insane, weird girl. That was very scary and interesting. I'd play along. I'd catch up to her.
じゃあこれかぶって。
みっちゃんのお下がり？
別れてから買ったバイクですから、ヘルメットだって新品だよ。
そっかそっか。ふむふむ。
なんだろ
ネットかぶる前にちょうだい。ずっと我慢してたんだから。
Crap, what a surprise attack.
そんなん言われたらするよ。
Just as she asked, I kissed her.
おめでとう。君はこいつに唇を奪われた13人目の女の子です。
おめでとう。春明さんは生まれて初めて中で敗北感を感じたため、苦し紛れに過去のスコアを晒しました。
行くぞ。
はーい。わお、結構座り心地いいんだ。
速度はあんまり出ないけどね。足はステップ、手はベルトか底のフレームにかけて。
オッケー。あんま密着しないんだね。
運転中に誘惑してこないように、そのまま天国に行ってしまう。
それは夜のお楽しみでしょう。
やったぜ。
まあ 自称春明さんがまた事故って立ち往生とかしない限りですけど。
一応整備もちょっと勉強したぞ。早速原稿のネタにしたけど。
春明さんは調子に乗るとかっこ悪くなりがちだから注意すること。
ちえみはラリってぶっ殺さないように注意ね。
わお2だ。あとは2人ともリセットはもうないことを忘れずにってとこかな。
違いない。
I turned on the engine.
じゃあ行くよ。
オッケー。
Just as the previous journey led to a dream we could no longer return to, this one would surely lead us to moments so great they could never be repeated. Alright, so, there we go. We're finally at the end again of Raging Loop. This is the I don't know if you want to call this the true end, but yeah, it's the true end. There is, again, some epilogues when you purchase the game that not only cover the adventures of these two after this game, but of some of the other members as well. And you can also enable the mode that allows you to see what people are thinking during a playthrough, which is interesting and humorous at the same time. I really like this game. I didn't like it at first. I thought it was kind of slow-paced and all the namings were confusing for me. I didn't have enough reference for all the Japanese legends, which I think, while you're not required to know them, they sort of enhance the fun that you have with the game. But you know, regardless, it's really great. And I think this format and the engine that they've used for this visual novel, I think a lot of other games should copy this format. You know, having the branching paths model and being able to select your route from there, that's excellent. Especially with this game having so many routes and so many endings. It's something that I hope other visual novel makers copy. As it is, I think all of these characters are really well written. You get to know everybody really well. Everybody becomes a bad guy at some point in time, and I think that makes it you know, very, very interesting. Really, the game is just the game is just like a long form of the game Mafia. So, but done in a, you know, a very very interesting way. I'm happy that so many visual novels make it to the Switch. And thankfully a lot of really good ones. Some of the best ones are on the Switch, and so it's fun for a brand new audience who maybe hasn't had a PSP or doesn't use their PC for visual novels. Have a way to enjoy these stories and the new way that that stories can be told. I think it's good potential there. There's absolutely no such thing as werewolves. Yeah, I hope folks buy this copy for themselves. It's a really great game, and you know, the more we buy, then the more we're likely to get a sequel or a spin-off or more games from this developer, and that can really be good for the rest of us. And like I said, I won't cover the extra material. You know, I hope that you purchase the game and experience those for yourself. But yeah, it's a journey well worth taking. I know I'm going to be playing this again at some point in time in my life, just to enjoy the story again. And like I said, there's a bunch of extras, and it's well worth going through these. Blockhead versus final boss is especially funny. Anyway, this is audap, watching Raging Loop on Nintendo Switch. I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.